Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Camino Cafe. I am thrilled to have Sandy Brown back here with me. And this time, for real, he is in Santiago. And the last time that we spoke to him, which I think, gosh, was it maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago? I think you were in Calais at the time that we spoke.
It's in Calais, right? Exactly, on the Via Francigena, right.
Excellent. Well, thank you for taking time out of the festivities in Santiago on this very, very special St. James weekend. And I really appreciate you coming back to talk. So
Thanks, Leigh.
You're welcome. Let's start with Santiago. What is it? Is this your first time being there on a St. James Day? I can't remember.
No, actually, first of all, for those that don't know St. James Day is every year on July 25th. But when July 25th lands on a Sunday, then it's a very special holiday. So the last time this happened was July 25th of 2010. I knew about it. And so I walked part of the Camino San Andres with the goal of arriving on July 25th, 2010, and getting my Compostela certificate then. And I did. And I enjoyed the whole event so much that I said, I'm coming for the next one, even though I knew it was going to be 11 years. So 2 years ago, I made a hotel reservation for this weekend. And then COVID happened and I started to think, well, is this going to be possible? But I kept the reservation and then worked around everything so that my wife, Teresa, and I could be here to enjoy this weekend. And we have not been disappointed at all. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I saw a photo. I think you maybe had taken it outside the hotel room, and there were some lovely gardens. So I was wondering, where are you guys staying? Because it looks really beautiful.
It is beautiful. So first of all, I wanted to stay in the historic center of Santiago de Compostela. So I just went to booking.com. I know a few hotels, but they're slightly away from the center of action. And remembering from 2010, I said, the streets are full of people having a good time. I want my hotel to be right in the middle of everything. So I found a hotel called Hotel Montes, and it is on Plaza Fonseca, which those who've been to Santiago will remember. If you're looking at the cathedral, you turn right and go down the street and you go toward the post office. And this is on the way to the post office on the left. And so I found this hotel. What I didn't realize was that from our second floor, which of course, second floor in Europe means third floor in the US, we'd be able to look out and see the fireworks where they would be happening last night. And so we just took the chairs from next to the bed in our room, opened up our French doors, sat on the terrace and looked out. And the fireworks were so spectacular. I don't think Teresa would mind me saying that tears came to her eyes because they were so beautiful. And the whole event of being here on this festival day was just kind of overwhelming and wonderful. So my 11-year ago plan my 2-year-old hotel reservations all came to fruition this weekend, and we've just been having a ball.
I bet. You know, Sandy, I think about, for those that have not yet watched our past video or have not yet had a chance to read your books, you're based in Seattle. You've been writing Camino guides for quite some time, and other pilgrimages as well. But you know, this COVID time has been a really tough time. And I just wonder if you could describe for us how differently maybe arriving there this weekend feels compared to who you were 10 years ago or 11 years ago being there. You know, what was different for you? How did it feel differently?
Yeah, well, the first thing is, I would say there are probably about 50 to 75% fewer people here than there were at the time, because there are limits on the actual events. There, you know, the hotel or the lodging space, like albergues and so on, is smaller. People are staying closer to home. So in the day 11 years ago when I was here, you could barely get through the streets because they were so crowded with people.
Wow.
And the night before, this as an example, the night before the holy day, so the Saturday night of the weekend, the fireworks were in the main plaza, Plaza Oberduaro, in front of the cathedral facade.
Wow.
This year, instead, in order to avoid the crowd that gathered there, because there were probably 10,000 people 11 years ago for this day, instead of having the crowd, they had 5 different locations for fireworks shows in Santiago. So the fireworks were less dramatic than 11 years ago, but they were still very dramatic. So it's everything that it was, but backed off a couple of notches. So a person that hadn't been here in 2010 might not fully understand how amazing it was then, and how slightly a little less dramatic it is this time around.
Okay.
So I would say what we see here is, first of all, there are pilgrims, like always, who are walking through, and we can recognize them because they have their walking poles, they have their hiking shoes, they have their jackets and backpacks on. But then there are also locals and tourists who outnumber the pilgrims, who are also here for the special event. And there are moments when it's a little bit crazy because the King and Queen of Spain, the President of Spain, the President of Galicia were here today. And so there were also protests happening at the same time. Could you please go ahead and close it? There are protests happening at the same time. And so like there was a moment when Teresa and I were walking through a crowd and people were starting to shove, and they were shouting their cheers for their political party, and the police were getting involved. And so there was a moment when it was just a little bit crazy today. And Teresa said, let's get out of here right now.
Really?
Yeah. And
so did you go? Did you go? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It didn't get to the point where anybody was unsafe, but for a moment in our presence, it did start to get almost to a boiling point. So, so that's the exception. But it's like if you imagine you're American and the president comes to an event, there are going to be people that are there to see the president. There are going to be people who want to protest the president, and there's going to be a big crowd there just for the event. And that's what it felt like. That's what happened today.
Well, Sandy, did you feel that it was protest just from a political perspective, or did you feel it was also protest over COVID issues, or anything with mask wearing or potential lockdowns, things like that?
It was political protests, and you could tell because people were wearing vests that said the name of their party. There were flags, with the name of the party. And people have to understand that Spain has its own tensions. in Spain, there's always a tension that exists between the autonomous regions. You know, some people don't realize Spain has 5 official languages, and those languages exist in part because there are such cultural differences and cultural pride for the various different areas that they carry that with them. And Galicia is no different. There is a Gallego pride area and a spirit about Galicia that when the president comes from Madrid, that brings a flavor, and some of the tensions rise to the surface. But I should say that's a tiny percentage of what was going on. The whole thing basically is a giant, well-behaved party. And the party is a celebration of Santiago, patron saint of Spain, and the whole reason for the Camino de Santiago and everything that's behind the city.
That sounds fabulous. Did you and your wife get to see the King and Queen?
No, I know Josmar did, and you interviewed Josmar earlier, a friend of mine. We saw Josmar yesterday.
Yeah.
When I was here in 2010, I waited in Plaza Obrador to wave to the king. And it was the previous king, I think the father and mother of the current king, and in-laws of the current queen. And so we didn't think that was something that we needed to do today. We went to church instead, and had a great time at church. A friend of ours is an organist at the church we attended. Another friend was singing in the mass, and then we all had lunch afterwards. And so it was the interpersonal type of that. It was like it stopped being a city event for us, and it became an event between friends.
Sorry, Sandy, I lost you for a bit.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, not your fault. I think we're just having some kind of Wi-Fi connection issue. But the last I heard you say is you were talking about seeing the King and Queen, I believe, when you were there 11 years ago.
Yeah. And so I feel like I've already been there. I've already done that. And this year, I would leave it to others to go do that, because Teresa and I went to church instead. And we were in mass with some friends of ours who were in leadership of the worship service. And then we had lunch with them afterwards. So the big mass celebration for us today took a personal turn, where we got to see friends who live here in Santiago and who part of the Camino community that we enjoy so much.
Oh, that sounds like a really great way to spend the day, right? Having more of that sacred kind of experience. Where did you go? Were you at the cathedral for the mass, or did you go to one of the other spots in town?
We went to another church. It's San Agustino, or Saint Augustin in Spanish, and it's up by the market, the open air market that's here in Santiago. So the cathedral for the noon mass was closed to only dignitaries today. So Teresa and I are not at the level of dignitaries in Spain to get an invitation, but that wasn't going to stop us from going to church.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you've written guidebooks. I think that should put you at dignitary. For the American Pilgrim community, you are a dignitary.
No. I don't know. Thank you. You're making me feel like I have a big head here.
No, you don't at all. You're so humble, but you are a humble dignitary for we American pilgrims.
Okay, thanks, Leigh.
That really sounds beautiful, like a beautiful way to spend the morning. So yeah, that sounds great.
We've had a great day. Yeah, it's been really memorable. So we had the fireworks show last night. We had our day with friends today. We had mass. What else did we do, Teresa? It's just I mean, we walked around through the streets, and there's such a joyful feeling here. I can't think of any place in the US that has a celebration quite like this. In a way, it's like being someplace on the 4th of July, and everybody's happy and relaxed. But it's, the center city of Santiago is relatively small, and this is where the action is happening. So it's a lot of people together in a fairly small space. Everybody, except that one instance that I cited, is on good behavior, and they're all here to have fun and to honor this important holiday. So it's a light-hearted, relaxed day full of just joy.
Yeah. Well, I can't imagine, for the residents, this has to be such an emotional celebration this year beyond even the normal emotions that go around this special weekend. Because one, it only comes around every 10 years. But I think after what we've all been through, it must be very emotional to see this many people back on the streets of Santiago, and to be able to be around people again, and to be able to go to the restaurants and the cafes. I was talking to Yosmar earlier, and she was saying that it is difficult to get into places because of capacity rules right now. What's your impression? I know it's probably a little hard to tell because it is crowded, because it is the feast weekend, but what's your feeling about things that have remained open throughout COVID? Like, do you feel like Santiago still has a lot of cafes and markets still open, or are you feeling like, wow, some things have closed permanently, and it's sad to see?
I have not seen any closures in Santiago. There are some changes, but not closures. And like, in our hometown, Seattle, Washington, USA, the downtown has really suffered in COVID. So there are boarded up windows in many of the storefronts that had restaurants and small shops. Yesterday, in the entire city, the center city of Santiago, I only saw one boarded up shop the entire time. Everything else is open, selling, and active, and you wouldn't be able to tell that it was COVID times, except the fact that people, without even being asked, are wearing masks. And Teresa and I were talking today and saying, would you say it's 98 or 99% of people are wearing masks outside in Santiago? It's that much. So it's unusual to see somebody without a mask. And then the cafes, yesterday it was a little bit harder because it rained some, but today it's partly cloudy. It's 72 Fahrenheit degrees, and everybody's outside. The cafes are open with tables outside. And so you don't really get the feeling that anything's shut down at all. The only way you can tell is the numbers are a little bit smaller, and everybody, even outdoors, except if they're eating, is wearing a mask.
Okay. And what about the reception that you're feeling as an American being there right now? I know when you and I spoke back when you were in Calais, that you were feeling that people were just so happy to have pilgrims back and tourists back, that you felt really well received. Are you still feeling that way now that you are in Spain?
Oh, yeah. In spite of the fact that we're Americans, they're still welcoming us. No, I don't think anybody has even pointed out, they've not shared any opinion about our nationality. To me, something that's a little different is that the Americans and the Irish are really the only English speakers right now, because UK is still pretty much closed. Australia, New Zealand are closed. The other English-speaking countries are not really represented here, unless there are people that already lived here, like, for instance, the people we're at lunch with today. Right. So we're treated in a very normal kind of way. which is, it's a little surprising not to see people like Brits and Aussies here. There are plenty of Germans. Our next door neighbors in the hotel here are German. We were terraces side by side watching the fireworks last night. And so virtually every other part of the EU and of the world is here except those that I mentioned.
Okay, that's good to hear. Yeah, I really hope that the folks in the UK and Australia get to travel again sometime soon. So if any of you are watching or listening to us, we're sending you good wishes for those restrictions to be lifted when the timing is right, of course.
Yeah. And Leigh, there's one thing also that, everybody traveling to Europe this year is a little bit nervous about what am I going to be asked for.
Yeah.
And in my case, I was vaccinated in the US. In Teresa's case, after her first dose, she had a major physical reaction to it.
Oh, no. Okay.
In terms of her heart arrhythmia. And so her doctor would not allow her to take the second dose.
Oh, wow.
So our worry was, how will Teresa be able to travel?
Yeah.
And my worry for myself was, without having the green certificate or the QR code that the EU countries have, how will I be able to travel? And what I learned is, first of all, make sure you get your PCR COVID test before you come. And that's what Teresa did. And so everywhere in all the airports we went, she showed her negative PCR test. Secondly, nobody has asked us, except in the airports, for a vaccination status.
Wow.
But in the airports, when I showed them my American vaccination card, they were happy with it and they just moved us on. So I was worried that I would need the PCR code to be able to get into bars and places like that. And so far, that's not been the case. We anticipate later on our trip, when we're going to Italy, that we will need to show our vaccination status in order to get into restaurants and bars. It's not the case in Spain so far. But anyway, with the PCR test and also entry into Spain, there's a contact form that lists your hotels and where you're going to be while you're here, that Spain requires when you come into the airport. And so you have to show that before you get on the plane. And then there's a checkoff when you get to your destination from another country. So you have to show that piece or that QR card. But that's available just by you could Google COVID entry Spain, and you'll come up with the form in English, and it will send you the this attestation form that you need in order to get into the airport. So if you pay attention and follow the rules, it's very easy and natural to be able to travel. Now, we haven't been to albergues to test what the capacity limits of albergues are, but in the hotel that we're at, there hasn't been a problem. I imagine Josmar could say more about albergue capacity.
Yeah. So if you were to be asked at the Spanish bars, I think Josmar was saying, about that there could be requests, I think as of last night at midnight, there could be requests to see some type of COVID vaccination verification to enter bars and different things. Would you think that you would just be showing that card? Is that enough?
I would show, yeah, I would just show my white card. And with Teresa, what she would need to do, she'll show the white card, which shows she has one dose of the Pfizer vaccine. But she also has a statement from the laboratory in the US that she has the COVID antibodies, which is another level that shows that she is essentially vaccinated. And so we're trusting that if we're asked for that, then that'll be adequate. So far, no problems.
And was that something that she just requested from her doctor, or did that require? Yeah, okay. Great.
Actually, she requested it from her doctor because she works in a plant nursery in Seattle, and all of the employees were required to have or to be fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
So,
Take your mask off.
if you wanted to take your mask off, you had to have full vaccination. So she presented this for her employer. And now that we read the requirements, we see that that antibody test is good for 6 months here in Spain. And if you can show that, essentially it means you've either had a dose of the vaccine or you've had COVID and have recovered. And those are both equally acceptable.
Okay. So at this point, when you guys leave Santiago, like what's your next plan? Are you planning on walking in stages in Spain, or are you heading directly to Italy?
Well, I would love to walk a little of the Camino here, but our plan is to slowly make our way to Italy. So on Tuesday, we fly to Barcelona. Teresa hasn't been to Barcelona, and it's a city that I'm confident she'll love very much. And so we're spending 3 nights in Barcelona, and then we fly to Italy, and we'll be in Italy for 2 weeks. Teresa then will fly home, and I'll go back up to continue my research on book 1 of the Via Francigena series. Okay. So I'll be in Europe for at least the next 2 months, working through the Francigena book.
Okay. So many questions I want to ask you. What is it like for you guys after, I mean, I know that you did the mission trip in California, and you're getting ready to write the guidebooks for that. And so I know that you've been quite active during this, but what's it like now being able to go back to Europe and travel after the lockdown? Like, what kind of feelings are you finding emerging after so much time of being restricted?
It's a blessing. I mean, we feel blessed and fortunate to be in Santiago now. I mean, obviously it comes at some cost. And we weren't intimidated by the steps we had made to take to be able to get here. Now that we're here, it feels very natural. I mean, just like being in the US, everybody is still, well, in the US, the mask thing is passé. Here, it's still active. So in a way, it's like a throwback to a couple of months ago, the way it was in the US. But we respect that. And we respect that Spaniards are compliant with what is best medical advice. And that gives us a sense of safety here as well. Nobody is proudly saying that they're above the rules or that they don't trust the science. They're just doing what they believe and have been told is the best thing for them. So it feels very natural. It feels like we're where we should be. It's gratifying to have made all these plans and then be able to carry through with them. It would have been more complicated, I'm sure, if we had been walking in Spain this year because of the albergue situation. My walks on the Via Francigena have been more quiet, and I'm not staying in albergues. They don't really exist in France. They have gîtes, and I stayed 1 night out of the 2 weeks that I've been here in a gîte, and I was all by myself in a place with about 10 beds. So I haven't had to face the idea of being overnight in the same room with somebody else. Wow. So it feels like a blessing. And maybe I feel a little bit like, how am I blessed when other people are staying home? And maybe I should count my blessings and realize how fortunate we are to be able to be here this year.
Yeah, Sandy, I think about that all the time, is that I guess I just never realized really what a privilege it is to travel. And it was something that I had taken for granted for so long. And having the shutdown, I will kiss the ground when I step off the plane and get back to Spain at some point. Because it's a blessing to be able to do this. And it's a gift to be able to walk the Camino or travel and do the things that we're getting to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
I wondered if that was kind of what your experience is, because that's kind of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
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 So how many more? Go ahead.
I was going to say there's something I haven't mentioned yet about Santiago that's very exciting for me. I am a student and a fan of medieval art and architecture and art history. And I have experienced the cathedral in Santiago over many years, since 2008. And the last time was 2019. And since that experience, they've done the remodel of the inside of the cathedral. And watching people, first of all, my own experience is that they have helped this cathedral to come alive again. And it feels more authentic than ever I've experienced it before. And as I watch people coming into the cathedral, they're taking pictures of the building. And in the past, it was like they couldn't describe that the harsh fluorescent lights were shining in a glary kind of way against the white ceiling, and the walls and everything looked dreary and too bright and covered in dust and grime. They probably didn't look closely enough to see that that's the way it actually looked, but it did. And now, 2 years of renovations later, there is a quiet grandeur and majesty of the building. And people are experiencing the building in a way that I've never seen before. They see it as being a place of wonder and beauty. And they didn't do new things like paint the walls in a different kind of way. They uncovered some of the layers of grime and grit. So the building can now speak like it probably hasn't spoken in over 100 years. And it's a beautiful place now. The lighting, the purity of it, the stone, even the Baroque altarpiece, they all work together. And it's now my favorite Romanesque cathedral in Europe.
Wow.
And so I think it's a beautiful and exciting place. The people that in the past have been let down when they get to the cathedral, like, oh, so what? I think that it has its own kind of quiet splendor and spirituality that will be more consistent with what people are looking for in a spiritual and emotional kind of way when they arrive in Santiago. So kudos to everybody who was part of that renovation project. They did a really fabulous job.
Oh, Sandy, so beautifully stated. I dream of seeing the cathedral without scaffolding. And like you said, when I first got to step foot in there, so much was covered. Right. Interiorly as well, that I couldn't get to certain areas both times. And I've never seen the outside of the cathedral without scaffolding. So
oh, really? Yeah.
I can't wait to be able to stand there and see that. But hearing your description, it just sounds lovely.
Yeah, the exterior of the cathedral, the scaffolding was down when we were there last time. So we have beautiful pictures of it. I remember watching an American that I was aware of as we were walking, and he walked into the plaza and turned around to look at the cathedral and said, "Oh my gosh, somebody needs to get a pressure washer and clean that building off." There were plants growing out of the cracks and a tree up in the tower, and everything was kind of grimy. Mm-hmm. And now the scaffolding is off, and it's beautiful. I assume it's limestone. It looks like limestone to me, building. On the outside, it's Spanish Baroque. It's a beautiful expression of Spanish Baroque. But on the inside, the architecture is Romanesque. And so that's 800 years of building in a style that was replaced by Gothic and Baroque. And Romanesque to me is always the most spiritual because of the simplicity of it. And that's what's speaking now. And the Baroque adornments like the altarpiece and the Rococo organ, those make more sense. And they're subtly lit. So they don't jump at you. They feel more naturally part of the building. So it just works very well. They've done a really great job with it.
I'm so glad to hear your description, especially with how much you know about, the architecture of that period. It's lovely to hear that. I wanted to ask you, I kicked myself after we talked last time. I got off the phone and I didn't ask you, how did you become a Camino or a guide writer? How did this come about? And can you just share with me and our listeners and viewers, kind of just a little timeline of how your career, I think, has turned into an amazing vocation. Like it sounds fascinating what you do. So I'm just curious how you got from A to Z.
Sure. Well, thanks for asking about that. So I did my first Camino in 2008. I did a second Camino in 2010. In 2011, I wanted to walk the Camino del Norte. So I looked around for a guidebook, and there was no guidebook in English. So I had to rely on the French guidebook. And then there was a Spanish website. And I have 5 years of French from high school, and I could read the French well enough that it served me for the purpose of walking the Camino del Norte. But I thought, I could serve the Pilgrim community by writing a Camino del Norte guidebook. So I called the publisher of a few Camino guidebooks in English, Cicerone Press, and I said, you guys need me to write a Camino del Norte guidebook. And they said, that's funny. We decided about a year ago to give this job to Dave Whitson. And his book is going to come out in about 3-4 months. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm like a year and a half too late to do this. I said, okay, I'll review it, send me a copy. And on my blog, I'll examine the book and I'll review it for readers. So I did, but that put me in touch with the staff at Cicerone Press. And I retired. I've retired 3 times from my work as being a Methodist pastor. After my second retirement, I said, okay, I think my retirement project will be to write a guidebook. But I had just finished walking the Way of St. Francis in Italy, and it didn't have an English guidebook either. It had German and an Italian one. So I wrote to the people at Cicerone Press and I said, okay, here's another pilgrimage route. What would you think about a guidebook on the Way of St. Francis? And they said, okay. So then I wrote that guidebook, and a couple of years later, they liked my work enough that they said, we need a new Camino Frances guidebook. Will you write it for us? And I said, yes, on the condition that I get to write the new version of the Via Francigena guidebook. And so they agreed to it. And essentially, by saying yes to the Frances, I was saying yes to 4 guidebooks at that point, 1 on the Frances, 3 on the Francigena. So after writing these guidebooks, I've come to feel that it's a niche for me, that I can take the skills that I have and I can turn them into something that's of use to the Pilgrim community. Yeah. It's not always fun because there are other guidebooks out there too. And you have to remember they're not competitors, they're colleagues. And we're all of us trying to serve the Camino Pilgrim community. And, but it delights me when I see on Facebook somebody hold up a picture of their guidebook that has my name on it, and it's all tattered and worn. And they say, I had a great Camino, or I managed to make it without getting lost, or I'm ready for the next one. And that's a real honor. So independent of the, the too small royalty checks that come in, independent of all that, knowing that I've helped somebody make a Camino, to me, is what makes it all worthwhile. The Via Francigena books coming up, I think they're going to be, in fact, I was just told today by a prospective Francigena pilgrim that's been studying them, we're anxious for and awaiting your books. We're looking forward to them. We're so glad you're doing this. So, I mean, a book is not just a commitment of writing it, it's a lifetime commitment, because I have a responsibility to my current and future pilgrims to keep that book up to date.
Right.
So I have to do that for the Frances, the Way of St. Francis, the Francigena, and then, as you mentioned, the California Missions Trail. So when these last two books are done, I'm done with new books, and I'll just be updating my existing guidebooks.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, one, congratulations to you, because I think what an accomplishment to be able to have this dream and you followed it, and and now you're helping other pilgrims. And I think that's one of the greatest things I see about the Camino when I'm interviewing pilgrims, is that I really feel strongly that we come back with a sense that we want to give back. And I think the way you have found to give back is phenomenal and so helpful. And it's just a real accomplishment that I think you have every right to, feel proud of and feel good about, and helping our fellow pilgrims. So congratulations to you on
Thanks,
that.
Leigh. Thank you, Leigh. In medicine, there's a saying that doctors often learn in medical school, and that is learn one, do one, teach one. So there's a medical procedure, you first learn it, then you do it, and then you teach somebody else to do it. And I hope that people who do Caminos will learn how to do it, and then do it. And then their next role should be to help somebody else do it. So to me, that's part of the responsibility of being a pilgrim. Don't just take it home and put your scallop shell and your compostela and your credential on the shelf. Instead, help somebody else to make their journey.
Oh, wow. What inspiration, and I think great guidance for all of us. I'm always thinking about, what's the next thing I should do to help the Camino? I want to figure that out. And I think there's so many opportunities for so many of us to use whatever gifts that we have, that I think it's endless. Some people will say, oh, there's too many Camino books. And I'm like, no, there's not, because everybody's got their own unique story. Everybody's got their own way of telling this. And that's going to inspire someone that needs to hear it being told in that way. Yeah. I'm curious, what is it about your background, though? Because I don't think I could ever sit down and write a guidebook. I can barely follow the guidebooks correctly, What skill set did you have? Were you a writer before? Or, what made you think it was something you could do and do it so well?
Well, thank you. You're kind to say that I do it well. I'll tell you, there are a few things that I feel that helped me to write a guidebook. First is I majored in college in medieval history.
Okay.
So the art, the history of these Western European countries, they're second nature to me. I understand the basic outlines. I get the difference between Romanesque and Gothic architecture. I can look at a building in Spain or France or Italy and tell you approximately when it was built. I can name the kind of architecture. I can describe the art inside. So that helps. And that's because I happen to enjoy medieval history in college and had some great professors. At University of Washington, one of my professors was a MacArthur Genius Grant recipient. And she lit a fire inside of me about medieval history. The other thing is, I feel like I have a facility with languages. So I studied French in high school. In college and university, I studied Greek and Hebrew. And I went back after my doctorate and I studied a year of Spanish in college. And then I studied Italian in Italy. So I have these languages that are swirling around my head, and I'm not intimidated by them being a foreign language. So what I want to say to pilgrims is do the same thing. Don't be scared of making a mistake. Jump in with your very best Spanish. Respect the country that you're coming to. Spend at least a couple of weeks trying to understand the basic rules of pronunciation. And the more you know in a language, the deeper your experience is going to be. So, and then the other thing I would just say is that I'm a teacher at heart and a storyteller. And so I'm weaving these things together to create a guidebook. The other piece that some people don't realize about guidebooks is that photography is an important part of it as well. So, in a guidebook, I get about 80 photographs, and I want these photographs to be as compelling as they can be, because they'll tell as much of the story as my words are going to. And I know how guidebooks are usually used. When somebody is worrying about and planning for their Camino, they want to get the guidebook in their hands so they can see what their experience is going to be like. And then they might not even take it with them because they're going to trust, they're going to have an app or whatever, and their experience is not dictated by the guidebook. But I want to help people see that they can do it. I want people to see the beauty of it. I want them to discover it on their own. And to me, that's like being a teacher. That's unpacking it so that their experience, their own experience, can have enough knowledge behind it so that they can have an experience of depth and meaning.
Wow. Yes. Well, that certainly explains how you have become a guide writer. Like, that's just your philosophy behind it makes so much sense. And yeah, wow. I was impressed when you said earlier you'd had 5 years of French, or you were able to use that. And I'm thinking, I'm so embarrassed. I've had years also of Spanish, but I have just forgotten it. And I really need to learn it. Do you and Teresa ever think you would move to Europe? I know you love Seattle, it sounds like, but have you ever thought about moving, or are you guys going to stay based in the US?
Yeah, it's funny. In Seattle, one of our best friends is Rick Steves. And so Rick Steves' travel is a big thing. He's one of the big names in travel in Europe. And so we know him. We've had him to our house. We've been to his house. And Rick is amazing to me. He's a genius at what he does. And everything that I do, I feel like it's a percentage of the amazing work that he has been able to do in a lifetime of doing this. Yes. But Rick says he would never dream of moving to Europe. He does Europe in 3-month chunks every year, and then he comes back because he lives in our hometown, and that's his town, and that'll never change. Mm-hmm. So I go to Europe and I find a cool place, and I say to Teresa, I want to move here. I want to come. I want to experience this every day. So actually, we have our visas that allow us to be able to stay year round. This is my Italian residency visa that took us 1.5 years to be able to get. And so we're going to be in Italy. At least I'll be there much of the year, this coming year, doing my writing. And we'll be, I know there's a bi-coastal, I guess we'll be binational as Italian/Americans for probably the next couple of years. We'll keep our house in the Seattle area, and also have a little cheap studio apartment in Italy that will be our landing pad, so we can enjoy what Europe has to offer too.
Oh, wow. Okay. So many things to say to this. So I was going to say to you, when you and Teresa are back in Seattle, I want to take you guys for a drink or dinner. I want to meet you actually in person.
That'd be great.
But I don't know if our timing is going to work out in Seattle, because I also am applying for my long-term visa to move to Spain. And so I'm hoping to be in Spain.
Really?
Yes. So I'm hoping to move to Santiago actually in October.
Seriously? Oh my gosh.
I will come to Italy, or the next time you're in Spain, and I will buy you that drink if our Seattle times don't match up. So yeah, I wondered as you were talking, because that's my dream, to get there as well. And I wondered if you guys would have that same dream. So wow.
That's super cool, Leigh. That's exciting. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
So will you be here? Yeah. As a person who lives in the Seattle area, you're already used to the rain in Galicia. So you won't have that adjustment, at least.
Exactly. Yeah, I've had so many people say that to me on either side. They're like, why would you move to Galicia? I'm like, I'm already used to that kind of weather, and
Exactly.
Actually, I haven't been in Seattle that long, but I haven't found the weather to be dissatisfying. I've rather enjoyed it. So
okay, good.
Yeah, if there's any place that I would second home, it probably would be this area. So that's going to be my investigation, is seeing, how long I want to stay there. But I'm just keeping my heart open and figuring it all out. So I really want to meet you in person. I so enjoy speaking with you, and
that's so sweet.
Yeah, and
thanks, Leigh. Just wait till you meet Teresa. She's the interesting one and fun one of the two of us.
I don't know if anyone could be more interesting, but I know Teresa and I will have much to talk about with yoga and gardening. So I feel like we will make a great friendship. But thank you for taking time out on this really, really special day, and for time during this trip with you and your wife. And I just wish you the best. And I'll be following you, of course, on all your journeys with your Facebook and Instagram posts. And I'll be posting this tonight, so people can see it, since it is the feast day. And
that's
thank
cool.
you so much. Thank you for everything.
Thank you so much, Leigh. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for including me today.
Oh, thank you. And we'll see you soon. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. And we hope that you've been inspired to, if your dream is to walk a Camino or one of the other pilgrimages, or to, I don't know, maybe move. I hope that you're inspired by some of the things we talked about today. So everyone stay safe. Buen Camino.
Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. Las cosas que necesito en la vida ya están aquí. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered wings. I am free, free as a bird now, with my feathered